everyone and welcome to the video. I am joined by Andrew today, who is an ex-colleague of mine. Andrew runs the Outsourced HR service, which you can access through the link in my bio or in the description box below. Today we're going to be discussing a basic understanding of selecting someone for redundancy. So if that's of interest to you, keep watching. In a redundancy situation, it's been announced 6 members of staff working, doing the same job. 2 of them are going to go. How do you organise that in a selection process?
So employers would typically introduce what's known as a selection matrix. So they would score their employees in certain categories. It might be things like length of service, qualifications, punctuality, productivity, disciplinary record, the ones you typically see. And they would give everyone scores, possibly out of 5. And then the person with the lowest score would be bottom of the league, if you like. And if you were making one redundancy, they'd be the one provisionally selected for redundancy. So what you would then have is essentially a league table. And if you were making 2 redundant, the bottom 2 of that league table would be provisionally selected for redundancy. They would continue in the process and the others would then fall away from that process and no longer be at risk of redundancy.
There is an extra layer to it as well, isn't there? So in terms of, you know, like you talked about the different criteria, the different selection criteria, you can add weight to each.
Yeah, so what you could do is you could say, we want to recognise people who've been with us the longest, but that would only be, you know, the maximum you could get in that category would be 5. So they'd be weighted as 1. So you've been with us for a long time, you score 5 out of 5. At the end, you times that by 1 and get 5. And, you know, there are also age discrimination arguments around that particular category as well. But that's typically the one you see as weighted as a 1. But then you might think, well, actually, we want someone with a clean employment record. So you might weight that as a 3. So typically what you see with disciplinary records is it's a minus figure. So they take that off your total score at the end. So you might multiply that by 3. So someone who got a clean record gets 0 for that. 0 times 3 is 0. They get nothing off at the end. Someone on a final written warning, that might be a 3. Times that by 3, 9. And they take that off your final score. Or in a more positive way, it could be productivity. And if you're, for example, a salesperson and 100% of your target is 5 out of 5, under 50% of your target is 1 out of 5, you might be, again, weighting that by 3. So the person who scores 5 out of 5, actually his score after the weighting is 15, gets 15 points. Whereas the person who's only scored 1 is only having 3. So there's a big difference there.
Do employees have access to the selection matrix, the criteria?
Yeah, so you'd typically consult on the selection matrix before you applied it. You get their comments on it. At least that way then, if they are bottom, it's harder for them to argue, well, the criteria was unfair when 2 weeks previously they've given it the green light.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that answers that one.